This is a remake of a video that I produced a couple days ago, and as I was reviewing it, I saw where I had inadvertently dropped an F-bomb, and this is not the channel I want to do that. So I'm going to remake that this video here. I want these stories to be stories that you can look at, you can enjoy without being embarrassed. You'll be able to show kids, if you will, and tell them what it was like, or use it as a guide to tell your stories to your kids. And like I said, hopefully not be embarrassed. So with that, this is a story of a four-ship lineup that didn't go as well as planned. Four-ship lineup on takeoff. So Mike worked for me over in safety, and he goes over to the squadron to fly as number 3 this one day. Beautiful day for flying, as quite a few of them were advanced, especially during the summer. So Mike gets over there, they brief the flight, and Mike, as I mentioned, is number 3. Then they go down to the soft desk, they sign out, come back, cycle off the tank, head through the chute room, pick up their G-suits, their helmets, and their chutes, and it's out to the jets. Once they get to the jets, they pre-flight, strap in, start them up, and they taxi out. Now they're at last chance area. Everything's going great. The crew chiefs out there check their airplanes over, and everybody's great. So they're all sitting there shaking their heads. They're good to go. At that point, lead calls Tower, and he says, Vance Tower, Reno 17 flight of 4 is ready for departure. Vance Tower comes back, and he says, Reno 17 flight, you're cleared for takeoff. Go to channel 4, which was our departure free. So lead says, Reno 17 flight, go to channel 4. He says this now as they're taking the runway. And he hears 2, doesn't hear anything, and then 4. So in those days, we had tube radios, and it was not uncommon for one of those radios to channelize, excuse me, on occasion. And that's what happened to Mike that day. His radio started channelizing, and when you can tell right away, it just goes click, click, click. It's annoying. And the way you fix it is you reach down and you go from preset channels, we had 20 of them, to manual, and either dial it in, or sometimes you could just do that and then flick it back to preset and it would rectify itself. So Mike's working that problem as they're taking the runway, and they line up in fingertip. So you have lead, 2, 3, and 4. So they're lined up like that. Everybody's lined up, and lead aircraft looks at number 2 and looks at Mike, and he gives them the run-up signal, and they announced with a head nod. So they all start running the engines up, and lead says, Reno 17 flight check, 2, 4. Okay. So they're all on channel 4 now, except Mike. Mike's still screwing around with that stupid radio. So now lead thinks to himself, I can't take off like that. Let's go back to channel 3 and we'll see if we can clear the runway and get this all sorted out. So he says, Reno 17 flight, go channel 3. At that instant, Mike's radio settles down. It tunes in. So Mike is now on channel 4, and the other guys are on channel 3. And this guy says, Reno 17 flight check, 2, 4. Because Mike's on channel 4, everybody else on channel 3. So now this guy's really getting pissed off. He takes his hand and he slams the clear shield. He looks over at Mike and he goes like that. And Mike nods his head like this, releases brakes, goes into burr, and takes off. Well, hell, the 3 of them are sitting there watching Mike launch out of the 4-ship, so the lead goes, Reno 17 flight, go channel 4, 2, 4. Reno 17 lead, 2, 4. And so they do their own takeoffs. Mike's out there all alone, and he calls departure. He's looking around. There's nobody with him. So he gets out there and proceeds on out toward the area on departure. And then the rest of the formation gets airborne, and they catch up with Mike and later sort it out and are able to pick up somewhat of a profile to at least complete the mission. Well, they come back and they land and they ride in the bus, and nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room, because anyway. So they get into the flight room. They start the debriefing, and the flight commander looks at Mike and says, "All right." He says, "What was that all about?" And Mike says, "Well, sir," he says, "I'm sitting there as number 3. He says, I had a radio that channelized." And he says, "A stupid thing." He says, I finally get on channel. I see you look over at me and you slam the glare shield saying, "This airplane is screwed up." And then you say, "3, you got the lead." And so I nodded okay and I took off. Okay, that explains that. In the interim, or as an aside, I guess, as they were all rolling down the runway, the RSU controller came on and said, "Now that's something I've not seen before." But it all worked out. It gave me a great story to tell 50 years later. So thanks for tuning in, and just so happy to see everybody. Bobo, base gear stop. Take care.